Rose with Carolina Hoofbeats TV, and Amelia Efland Joyner of Joyner Horsemanship out of Rougemont, North Carolina, is with me today. And Amelia was one of the contestants in the recent Everything Equine Expo Colt Starting. Amelia was the former first place winner in our All Ladies Colt Starting at Lake Waccamaw last year. And she's done very well in the colt starting industry. But Amelia, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and, what made you decide to try colt starting.
Okay, so like you said, I'm with Joyner Horsemanship in Rougemont, North Carolina. I specialize in starting colts, and I work with a lot of so-called problem horses. I take a lot of things that need to be restarted or have behavioral correction work done as far as dangerous behaviors or there's holes in their training that have just compounded and shown as bigger problems. Our place is called Rockville Ranch, and we've got about 40 acres here that we're building up into our facility.
Right. So do you train horses there and give lessons, or do you just train?
I mostly train. I do give some lessons, but it's mostly with the owner with their horse. It's not just riding lessons. It's more of like, here's what your horse knows. Here's how to ask it for all the different things that it's learned.
Right.
Here's what to do to stay. Stuff like that with the owners of their horse. I do give a couple of just riding lessons, but we don't keep lesson horses, so it's on my students' horses.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Most of your work is focused on your training program, and that's very good. No wonder you're so good at it.
Oh, and I know you asked me about how I got into the colt starting competitions, and it's just that this is my passion. I found out very early on in my life that I wanted to train horses, and I wanted to be the one to get the clean slate and do everything myself with each young horse. So I actually started my first colt when I was 13, and I will be 31 soon, which I realized that means I've been doing this for 17 years, starting colts. So that was kind of a shell shock to me the other day when I really realized that.
I know.
But, passion, and when I first found out about colt starting competitions, it piqued my interest, and I put my name in the hat for one in Virginia, and I was selected as an alternate trainer the first year, and then they had me compete the next year, and I just was like, this is what I want to do competitively, and I have tried to enter as many as I could since.
I remember that's where I met you, when you did that colt starting, and you got a mare who had just had a baby, and the baby took off of her right before you started with her, so that was no easy job.
Yes, and she was an older mare versus 2- and 3-year-olds that were in the pile to be selected, and I purposely chose her because I was like, I'm used to starting older horses and horses that have problems and are kind of set in their ways, and I thought it would kind of help exhibit who I am and what I do and what my specialties are. So she was a challenge, but in the end, she did everything I needed her to do, so I was really proud of that one, too.
You did a great job with her. I remember very well. Big, pretty black mare. Now,
yeah.
For our colt starting, I'm sorry, did you want to say something else?
No.
Okay. For our colt starting, how did you choose the horse that you got, the colt that you got? I know everybody drew a number and had the chance to pick based on what number they drew. So what number did you draw?
I drew number 2, so I got the second pick. And thankfully, my first pick was the one that I got to select. So the first, I think Sarah was the one that drew number 1.
Uh-huh.
So she got first pick, but she didn't pick my first pick horse. So I actually got the one that I had my eye on.
Well, that's good.
And the reason I chose the one that I ended up with, she was my first choice, and it was because there was 7 horses.
Uh-huh.
All of them were 3-year-olds. All of them were fillies, except for there was a 3-year-old gelding, and there was a 5-year-old mare. The 5-year-old mare seemed super touchy and a little salty.
Right.
I was like, okay, I'm not going to go with that one. She just didn't seem happy about life at all. And then the gelding kind of had the same vibe to him, and I think that's the one that TJ ended up starting.
Right.
So those two were my absolute bottom pick, and I'm so thankful I didn't end up having to work with one of them, because what TJ had to work through, I probably would have not even been able to ride that horse during the weekend colt starting. So
Right.
I'm super thankful I didn't end up having to start him, but TJ did a fantastic job with him. I was super impressed. But
Absolutely.
anyway, so I went through, and they're all just standing in little 12 by 12 panel stalls, and I look at each one of them's eye, I look at their whirls, I look at how they're behaving, if they're settled in, if they're kind of like standoffish, or if they're curious and kind of brave. And you can tell some of that if you're really paying attention when you're walking by and looking at them. So the one that I picked, he didn't have the kindest eye. The one that Sarah chose and the one that Carly chose both have very kind eyes. And I was drawn to those two horses, but when I would stick my hand out to see if they would come up and sniff me, neither one of them seemed interested in me whatsoever. So I went with the one that seemed like she was a little curious about me, even though she didn't have the kindest eye and she looked like she might be a little bit of a challenge. Something about the way that she seemed to be curious about me. And I love a curious horse. They seem to be more brave and more forward, which is very helpful when you have a short time limit.
Absolutely. And you and your horse bonded pretty fast. Tell us a little bit about round one. What was your strategy going into the ring, and how was round one for you?
So I try not to have a plan necessarily, because you have to go with what that horse gives you each moment. I mean, you can't, if you go into it with too much of a plan, it's more likely to backfire. So I go in, I kind of read the horse and see what they're ready to do, what they're willing to do. I try my best not to create a fight with the horse, especially when you're on such a short time frame. It's very hard if you go in there and start a fight with them right off the bat that you can regain your ground with them and get something accomplished. So I try to pick my battles per se. So the first round, I actually struggled Friday and Saturday in the first 4 rounds to catch my horse. So the first round on Friday, I never got a halter on her in the whole hour round. But she wasn't ready for that. She wanted no part of it. So finally I just said, okay, let's stick some obstacles in here, and she can free lunge over obstacles, and I can work on creating a draw to get her to want to be with me. And of course you can go in there and rope them if you want to. And I just didn't want to do that, because I felt like it would create a fight with her.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, if you don't want me to catch you in a kind way and start learning some stuff about halter pressure, then you can start going ahead and learning about obstacles and getting some desensitizing and things like that. So the second round, I think it took me like 30 minutes to get the halter on her. And once I had my halter on her, she learned so fast that I had to earn her. And it took me until the 4th round on Saturday. I walked in and I had a lariat, just a neck rope lariat, and I just stuck it right over before she even realized what was going on, because I knew I was like, I'm running out of time to really get some stuff accomplished. So I just went in there and did that, and once you had your hands on her, she would just excel super fast.
So at the end of your first day, you hadn't caught her or got a halter on her, correct?
The second round on the first day, I did have a halter on her. The first round, I never got a halter on her, but I had her doing other stuff. The second round, I did get a halter on her. It took me maybe 20 or 30 minutes to get her caught. So I was able to get a halter on her every round except for the first.
Okay. So for the people that are out there watching, just so you're following what we're talking about, the colts come in and they come off at Lost Creek Quarter Horse Ranch in Tennessee, and they're very nice, fine quality colts and fillies, and they have been on hundreds of acres since the day they were born, and they've been rounded up and loaded in the trailer and brought to us, but they haven't been handled. They haven't been broke to anything. So these guys really do start with a clean slate. So that's why the difficulty in the beginning, because you have to read the horse and figure out how to approach that difficulty. And each round is 1 hour, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, Friday, Saturday, 1 in the hour Sunday, and then the finale is 30 minutes Sunday afternoon. So now go back and let's talk about round 3.
Okay. So I believe round 3, that would be Saturday morning, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I believe that was my first ride on her. That was my first ride. So I rode her twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday. So she only had 4 rides on her. The finale was her fourth ride. I was the last one saddled and the last one to mount my horse. But she still completed everything, so I was thrilled with her.
So in round 3, you're still working in a round pen because you guys aren't allowed to go out of the round pen until what, round 4 or after round 4? I can't remember.
I think round 4 we were allowed to. I don't think, maybe I led her, I think I led her around out in round 4 in the arena, but I don't think I rode her in that open arena until Sunday morning for the last training round.
Okay. So in round 3, what did you accomplish? You rode her in the round pen?
Yes.
Okay.
Round 3, I rode her in the round pen.
Okay, and then
it was just a little walk ride. That's all we did on the first ride was walk around and turn in little circles, kind of getting her, moving her hips and unlocking her hips and getting a little one-rein stop. And then I got off over and took the saddle off. She never once bucked with the saddle when I saddled her and lunged her. She did not do anything silly when I got on her and walked her around the very first under saddle few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much all we did on our round 3.
Right. A good testament to these horses having such a good mind, for sure.
Yes.
So then in the afternoon, when you're ready for round 4, what were you thinking that you were going to try to accomplish in round 4?
So I struggled to catch her, like I said, throughout the whole weekend. Sunday, I didn't have a problem, but Friday and Saturday it was a struggle, so I had to go. My only plan was just catch her as fast as you can without creating a fight so that you can move on, because once I could catch her, it just excelled right away. So my biggest plan, honestly, was just to get in there and calmly catch her without starting a fight. That was my main goal.
Right.
Friday and Saturday. And sometimes it can be so simple and so small like that, but it can be nerve-wracking under the pressure, and when you have a clock ticking that you have to get certain things done.
Right.
So you have to be able to control that and just go in there and act like you're at home, but keep in the back of your mind that you have a clock ticking too. So that was my biggest plan. And thankfully, by that time, I was able to just go in there, put the neck rope on, and catch her pretty quickly.
Okay. So at the end of your second day, at the end of round 4, you had her riding, and you were feeling pretty good, and I'm sure that you were worried because you felt like you were behind everybody else. So going into Sunday morning, what was your plan on how am I going to win this thing?
Okay, so let me backpedal 1 second because I forgot to mention about round 4, something about round 4. So
okay.
Round 4 was her second ride, and I said round 3 was her first ride, and all I did was walk and do some one-rein stops and move her hips and stuff. So round 4, TJ offered to come in there and flag for me if I needed him to to get her feet moving because all I had done was walk at that point.
Right.
So I got on her and I walked around for just a second, and then he was standing there waiting. He came in when I said, yeah, I would like for you to come flag, just so that I could get the trot and the canter without having to like drive her so much off my legs and feet, that I could just get her feet freed up and relax moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in and flagged for me. He did a fantastic job and helped me kind of catch back up a little bit because we were a little behind. So I'm so thankful that he offered and came in there and did that for me because it helped us a lot.
You know, that's one thing really great about our Colt Startings is all of our competitors help each other. And, you know, even though everybody wants to win, there's no bad things, there's no cutthroat, there's no drama. It's just really good quality horsemanship and learning.
Yes, and I think our industry needs more of that.
Me too.
Because unfortunately, a lot of times people are like kind of pushed away from the horse industry because of how people treat each other in our industry. And it doesn't need to be like that. It can be, I mean, you don't have to step on somebody else to get to the top. You can get there and be helpful to people and kind to people along the way. And I was so encouraged to see, especially at this Colt Starting, not that it hasn't been this way, but it was in abundance that people were willing to help each other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you know, of course, who all did what, but I know that TJ helped me. We lent obstacle to TJ to use. I lent a pair of reins to another Colt starter because he didn't have long enough reins, loop reins that he wanted to use, and I was like, I have an extra pair, here you go. And that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
And I was so encouraged because everybody was constantly going like, you did a great job, like you're doing really good, and you know, if you need something, let me know. So it was really awesome to be a part of that and see how all 6 of us helped each other throughout the weekend.
Well, you know, one thing really important, all of the Colt starters that were there are very, very qualified horsemen and women. And, you know, Sarah Chastain, this was her first Colt start, and it was also Jeff Cox's first Colt start, and I didn't realize that. I mean, he started Colts a long time, you know, but he hadn't ever competed.
Yeah.
And competing is very different than starting them at home. You know, there's a lot of people watching and a lot of pressure. And I think that it's so wonderful that the other competitors are right there to support you, you know, and help you and hold you up, because it could just as easily be one of them having a rough round as well, you know. So that, I think quality horsemen and women, that's the way they are. And, you know, unfortunately, that's not everybody in the horse industry, but the folks that count, you can tell.
Yes, I totally agree.
So you got through round 5. What did you do in round 5? I'm sorry if you've told me, I'm getting senile.
It's okay. I don't think we've talked about round 5 yet.
Okay.
So round 5 was Sunday morning, the last training round, 1-hour training round before our finale. So if I'm remembering correctly, I work with so many horses and I'm all over the place. I'm pretty sure I got on her in the round pen for a minute and then brought her out, rode her around, and I think what I worked on, because they wanted to see you do your canter away from the round pens and the pens where the horses are kind of stalled.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to see you do your canter headed that direction, away from them. So I worked on getting forward motion away from the round pins and stopping and resting at the end, and then just letting her only walk towards home, so to speak, where her stall is. Worked on that a lot, and I spoke to the audience while I was out there and encouraged them to stomp and holler and whistle and make noise and all that stuff so she could get really comfortable out there, and so that kind of thing wouldn't startle her in the finale if people started clapping or yelling. So I wanted to get her really comfortable with everything that was going to happen around her out there. I think I mounted and dismounted and picked her feet out there a couple of times. And then I brought her back to the round pen because I was going to school her canter a little bit more. And I was running praying that she doesn't do anything silly when I can her out there.
Sure. So, for folks watching, you're probably looking at the screen and seeing what I'm talking about, but the arena in Lumberton is either 200 or 250 feet long and about 150 feet wide. And we have all the colts in round pens at the back of the arena, and that's where they stay. We bring them in on Wednesday, and they have a day to rest and get used to, being in a new location after their trip. And then Thursday, they're also there all day relaxing, and then we start on Friday. So when they first come out into the big arena, that's where all the audience is and all the vendors and all of the people, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of action. So it is a pretty big adjustment when they come out. So that was a great job to get people to make noise and try to make sure she understood that none of that was going to hurt her. Very good job, Amelia.
Thank you.
So then when you go to the finale, also what we do in our Colt Starting is that there's specific items that each trainer must accomplish. And I'm not going to try to repeat all of them because I can't remember all of them. But you have to mount, and you have to pick up their feet, and you have to walk, trot, canter, and do different things. And then there's an obstacle course portion, and then you have an opportunity to do a freestyle. Is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us what and all you did and how your finale went.
So each of us goes individually to do the to do the finale, and we each get the 30-minute time limit. So they put the horse in the round pen, and at this point there's only the one, well, I think there was 2 pens, but we were only using one. And they put the horse in there. You have to, from the moment you enter the round pen, just like the training round, your 30-minute time starts. So you have to go in there quickly, catch them, saddle them. You can ground work them and ride them in the round pen before you come in the arena if you want. But of course you're taking on that 30 minutes that you have to do your stuff out in the open arena. So I got in there and caught her right away, packed her up, and I led her out of the round pen into the arena because you're allowed to lead them around the edge of the arena to let them see what's out there because, of course, there's obstacles out there that weren't there before.
Uh-huh.
So I led her out just in a straight line up about halfway up her side and turned around and came back because she seemed super fine with everything. And she wasn't really overly worried, so I just walked kind of halfway up, turned around and came back. And I, took my lead rope off and mounted and then got back off and picked up her feet and then got back on, and I think we went ahead and did our walk and trot pretty soon right out of the gate, and then we went and did some of our obstacles before we came back to do our canter.
So how did things wind up at the Colt Starting? Where did you wind up placing? And let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I also forgot about my freestyle part. So I did spend a couple of minutes doing a little bit of a freestyle, and I'm not really like a showman type person. I don't do like all the little tricks and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just wanted to show that she was desensitized and that she was pretty, sane mentally.
Right.
That she wasn't easily rattled. So I brought the big green horsemanship ball out in the arena, and I bounced it beside her. I pushed it over her back and let it, go flying off the other side of her from both sides. I had her push it, with her front feet just once or twice, and then I also got the bullwhip out, cracked the bullwhip around her on the ground and under saddle. And she did fantastic. Of course, she had a couple of little moments, like one of the first times I was walking around cracking the bullwhip under saddle, she kind of bunny hopped one little time, but she came right back to me like, oh, sorry about that.
Right. So,
I was really proud of how she did, and I asked more of her than I normally would of a horse, at a Colt Starting, but it was some really, really tough competition, so I was like, I gotta show her off a little bit more.
sure.
But anyway, so the placing, I actually came in 6th. So, it was very stiff competition. I'm not worried about it at all. I was just flattered with the horse that she came out there and did everything, because I felt like I was behind all weekend, and I felt like I was struggling with her with some stuff, like we were kind of having a showdown, me and her.
Right.
And I affectionately called her Little Heifer all weekend, because she was so hard to catch. I was like, "Come here, Little Heifer."
Right.
And so I officially named her that. But
And you wound up buying her, didn't you?
I did wind up buying her, so I have changed her name to Mia, because it means mine. And
thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you guys for listening. Our souls wander in similar places. Even though we may not know each other, we touch the same wind, we walk under the same sky, and our hearts wander in the same dreams. We are one, women just like you and me. Our show explores women in the horse industry as they share their dreams, challenges, successes. What drives these women? Well, let's find out.